Welcome to Between the Covers. Every book you've ever picked up holds more than just words on a page. Behind every published book is a journey, a story before the story. Over the years, working closely with authors through the publishing process, I've witnessed something extraordinary. Behind every manuscript are moments of courage, doubt, persistence, discovery, transformation. The moments readers rarely get to see. Between the Covers exists to bring these stories into the light. Each week invites you into a personal conversation with authors, storytellers, and inspiring voices about what it truly takes to bring a book into the world. From the first spark of an idea to the moment a story reaches a reader's hands, we explore the journey behind the pages. Whether you're a reader wanting to go deeper, a writer searching for encouragement, or simply someone who believes in the power of stories, this show was made for you. Because the book is only the beginning. The real story happens between the covers. Hey, welcome to another episode of Between the Covers. If you're watching for the first time, my name is Daniela Bleckner. I'm an author, book journey mentor, founder of a company called Conscious Dreams Publishing, who work with authors from all over the world, one of whom you'll be meeting in literally the next 2 seconds, well, 3 seconds, 3 minutes maybe, to help them get their powerful messages, stories, and voices out there into the wider world. On the bookshelf behind me there are just some of the 350 authors' books that we've published over the last 11 years. I'm absolutely passionate about providing a platform for unseen, unheard voices so they can have their voices shared and stories heard so they can educate, inspire, and empower for generations to come. So, why are we called Between the Covers? Because this show is really getting up close and personal with authors to find out what goes on between the covers of publishing, promoting their beautiful book, Between the Covers. Okay, so there we go. That was the first time playing the intro video today. I hope you liked it. So I am introducing our awesome and amazing guest all the way from Montana, America. Her name is Dr. Nancy Dome, and I've got to read her bio here because she is an incredible human. She is a renowned speaker, author, and equity consultant. Dr. Nancy A. Dome co-founded Epic Education in 2014 to provide actionable tools in support of healthy communication, conflict resolution, and the pursuit of greater diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Epic Education serves leaders in education and businesses, as well as individuals seeking pathways to navigate complex topics, build bridges, and work together for impactful change. She's not just the author of this brand new book, Glimmers. Here you go. You have a glimmer of the book. Look at that beautiful cover. She's also the author of Let's Talk About Race and Other Hard Things, a framework for having conversations that build bridges, strengthen relationships, and set clear boundaries, and The Compassionate Dialogue Journey, a workbook for growth and self-discovery. So if you're watching, this is a very interactive show. Please do say hello, show us some love, send this out to your contacts. How can you not if you find this of value and worth? Please do say hello and feel free to ask your questions. So let's bring Nancy to the stage.
Hey.
Hello there. How are you?
How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Awesome. So your book, Glimmers, let's have a look at this beautiful cover. So Glimmers, a memoir, essays on race and historical trauma, the origins of compassionate dialogue, and the power of unconditional love. Can you tell us a little bit about your book and what inspired you to write it, first of all?
Yeah, well, the book is really a story I've been trying to tell for decades. I just didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. So it ended up being a way to look back and honor the people who kind of paved the way for me to be where I am today. I know that my success is contingent on all of the sacrifices that my family and friends and teachers made to ensure that I could be where I am today. And so after writing my first 2 books and really digging into compassionate dialogue, I realized that there was actually another story to tell about how it lived and supported me in my life, right? Instead of just doing it externally, it was an opportunity to turn the lens around and look deeply into my own experiences.
And I love that, because you really talk about embracing the spirit of Sankofa,
Mm-hmm.
the essence of like looking backwards in terms of learning about our past,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing how, not just how things have maybe influenced how we are, but also to be able to look back with compassion and forgiveness. I really love that about you, about the book. So what specifically did you feel like you had to revisit in order to write this book?
Well, almost
Big question.
everything. Yeah, I think it was harder to decide what to keep in, because it could have been, like five versions of this, or um, anyway, I think that it was really just kind of thinking about where we are today in the world, and
Mm,
the work of compassionate dialogue being out there, right, and people using it and feeling like it's empowering them to engage in a more authentic way, and just realizing that my past really was a part of that. Like my past, I started to evaluate and realize that, oh wow, I've been doing this for a long time. And I think that, you think about the day you name it, the day it gets a name, the day it becomes something, without recognizing that it actually was something before you named it,
yeah.
right? The name comes later. I think people wait to name their children until the names come to them. And it was kind of like that compassionate dialogue truly lived inside of me, and was a way, I think, just because of my nature, that I chose to live my life, to live in as much harmony as I could, to be as compassionate and empathetic as I could. And I think also being disappointed when people didn't meet me there. And so trying to figure out how to still honor myself and not degrade myself to meet people at a lower kind of energy field, to really
Mm.
keep myself up and elevated, and try to bring people with me. And if not, figure out how to repair, which is step away, but do it from a place of groundedness and as much love and compassion as I can.
Perfect. I think I want to go dive first into the work that you do. You spoke about compassionate dialogue, and I think now more than ever, I mean, it's been brewing for a long time, but I mean, with the rise of, technology, social media, people, I feel, have become desensitized to actually, realizing there's a person behind the screen. There's a person who's, displaying these opinions. Where is it coming from? And I think if we can meet with people with more compassion, we can really make a big change in this world.
Mm-hmm.
For those who don't know, Nancy, you created the compassionate dialogue framework, as well as I can't say the acronym. I'm going to try RIR. There's some letters I can't say together. RIR
Yeah.
protocol. So can you just share with the audience a little bit about what that is? But first of all, I'm just going to say hello to Janet, who's saying good evening. Hello.
Yes. So it started off as part of my research when I was a professor at Cal State San Marcos, and the RIR protocol was kind of created out of necessity. I wanted to name a way that we could engage with each other, and we taught that. I taught that for many years, where you recognize what the feeling is, what's happening in your body, because your body has this intelligence before your brain can catch up. And so how do we pay attention to what our body's telling us? How do we recognize what we're feeling? How do we self-regulate so that we don't have to react? We can actually be in response. And then once you've kind of done that self-regulation, you move to interrupt, which is the I. And interrupt, I think people have a negative connotation to that. They think interrupt is like a harsh or negative thing. But interrupt just simply means stopping something that needs to stop in that moment. And so we can interrupt, and but the protocol asks us to do it with compassion, right? To inquire. So instead of interrupting and telling someone something, we're interrupting by seeking to understand where they're coming from, right? So bringing that curiosity so that we can gain clarity and ensure that what I'm hearing is actually what you're saying. Because I think a lot of misunderstandings happen because people think they hear something, and it's not what was intended, but it has a different impact. And then once you've had that dialogue, you go to the last R, which is repair. And the repair says, how do we re-engage? How do we heal what's been broken between us or within, a situation, and move forward? And sometimes, though, that moving forward together means also moving forward not together. That it could be the divorce, it's the ending of a work relationship or whatever, but it's doing it with all the information. So it's not ghosting people, it's not doing that. So that was the origin. And then what I realized was that people started to weaponize it. And they started to say, well, I'm going to recognize like you hurt me, and I'm going to interrupt by telling you you are a jerk, and I'm going to repair by
Not
never
quite what
speaking
you
to
meant.
you. Kind of what we have going on right now, right? And so,
Yeah.
and that's kind of where compassionate dialogue got layered over as the framework, because I realized that the RIR without compassion could be dysfunctional, right? It could just be another way to say, I'm gonna take care of this. I'm gonna put you in your place. I'm gonna RIR you, you know. So, I mean, I've literally had people say that. And so so the compassionate piece was like, how do I ensure that my lens is always that of compassion, which helps me stay grounded.
I love that. If you're watching, please do put it. What does RIR stand for? Come on, write it in. Recognize, interrupt, and repair. I was thinking about this the other day as well. I mean, it's a great thing to kind of apply to yourself as an individual, right? Recognizing where we're maybe stepping out of our own, you know, balance or equilibrium, and also interrupting ourselves and self-reflecting. I think it's such a powerful tool. Can you kind of pinpoint, I would say, I think you started with compassionate dialogue, but can you pinpoint that moment where it became like an aha moment and you created that protocol?
Yeah, I mean, I can point to it directly, actually. There was an incident at a county office where they were hiring new employees for the new school year, and they had signs posted, and the signs said, class of certificated personnel, with which would be your teachers or administrators, with an arrow pointing one way, and then another sign that said non-essential personnel with an arrow pointing the other way. And it was a shocking moment to think, who would be non-essential in a school? And we know who they mean. They mean the classified staff, which are, you know, everyone else, you know, the people, your maintenance and operations, your office work, you know, your paras. And yet the school would not run without these folks. And non-essential, even though it was a technical term, what happens when you're the person walking into a space applying for one of those non-essential jobs? And what does that do to you? How does that make you feel valued, you know, in that organization? And so that was really the birth of it, of naming it. We, a colleague and I, decided to, like, let's break down the steps that could be memorable, that could be actionable, that could interrupt what we just saw here. What would we do in those moments? And that was the birth of the RIR.
Fantastic. I mean, that's kind of imagine the feeling of being able to see that and actually blasting yourself, is because language is important, right? It gets stuck in your head.
Absolutely.
So, for those who don't know, Nancy, you've had a very interesting life. You've done so many things. You're the founder of Epic Education. You've got an education background as well as a teacher. What I love, the introduction of your book, you have these beautiful testimonies from 3 of, I know you call them your kiddos.
Yeah.
And they'll be joining us. Listen, if you're in the UK, you can stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning and come to the book launch, because I am. It's the 28th of, I'm going to put the details in, 28th of May. So please hop on. But we're actually going to get to meet 3 of these. Well, they're not really kiddos anymore.
No.
Tell us about your experience with them, and you know, a little bit about the journey working with them. And
so I started my career in juvenile court and community schools in San Diego with the County Office of Ed, and JCCS is Alt Ed program, which means that if your kids are there, they're usually expelled from public school because of some kind of behavioral discipline reason. But because education is compulsory in the United States, the state still has to provide free education. So I was a teacher at, you know, one of these sites, and these were my kids. And it was, I mean, I tell you, it was a journey because I wasn't much older than them, which is, you know, kind of funny. I was about 27 or 28. And I have my kids who are 17, 18, some of them 19, because my preference was high school. I did not want to teach littles. Littles are great, but just not for me.
Same. I'm exactly the same. Yeah. I can deal with the you know, the front lines of, you know, secondary.
Yeah. Give me the bigger, the better, you know? So, so I really, you know, I think I learned as much from them as they taught me. we kind of grew up together. But I think my strength was really that I was strong with classroom management and discipline. And when I say discipline, I don't mean like the heart. I mean, I thank my grandmother.
Your grandmother, I've got her
grandma's
right
in there. Yep, that's grandma. Vendora. I thank her because she really she was the the queen of this tough love. Like it was always love, but she was fierce. And she had high expectations for us. And I took that with me to the classroom. So even though I was young, this was my foundation, was my grandma. And I kind of brought what my grandma instilled in me to the classroom. And I know that I made mistakes, and it'll be interesting to see what they have to say about some of my strategies. But I think where I had the most success was really when I surrendered the need to control and really decided to create a space of belonging where my kids felt that this was their space. It wasn't my classroom, it was our classroom. And that really changed things. That really, they took ownership. There was graffiti all over the classroom when I got there, and we got paint. We painted the classroom. We cleaned the bathroom. I had one kid tell me, "I'm not cleaning this bathroom." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you are," and so am I, because I used the bathroom too. And I think that was also huge, because a lot of times in education, and I won't even say a lot, but you know who you are if you do this, where it's like, you're going to do this. I don't have to, because I'm the teacher. That was not my philosophy. My philosophy was, this is our space. So I'm equally responsible for maintaining the space. Right. And I think things like that went a long way to showing them that I valued them, that I respected them, and also that I was in it with them. Right. That it wasn't me doing something to them, that it was us creating this environment together.
I think that's so important as well, having a teaching background. In the UK, we call them alternative provisions, for similar setup. And I think it's really important to have that mutual respect, because often you'll hear teachers, why should I respect him? He doesn't respect me. And it's like, well, actually, I agree with you. Respect shouldn't be something that is earned. It should be a given that you just mutually respect each other. And I love that you've created that community vibe, and it really comes across in the book when you read through the essays about you being in the classroom, the spirit of Emoja, working together as a community. I think I'm really looking forward to meeting your kiddos, or not such.
I know they're 40 something. I actually got to see one of them in January, and he introduced me to two of his three kids, and I was just blown away. I don't know, just time is flying, and they were beautiful. And, he was a little bit of a player. So God blessed him with three girls. And I'm like, you're getting what you deserve. I was like, you're looking older, man.
But he can look back with the spirit of Sankofa at his past and learn from that. And
absolutely.
Bring that forward,
absolutely. I think that's, he's like, no boys better show up at my door, is what he said.
Exactly.
He knows.
I want to sort of touch on what you said about like the fierce love. I believe love can be demonstrated in so many different ways. There's a chapter in the book, without ruining it, please go out and get it if you haven't got it already, called The Whooping. I don't know who's watching, but I can relate to a lot of that there. And I think that it's what was really prevalent in that chapter was about the idea of like breaking cycles. Could you share a little bit about that? Because I know, a lot of us 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, grew up with that. And I think things are changing. And often you'll see like, oh, I got beat, so there's nothing wrong with me. You look at, really? How do we go about breaking that cycle? And just share a bit about your experience, if that's okay.
It's a conscious choice. Like, you have to want to break the cycle, and before you can want to break it, you have to know that it's a cycle worthy of being broken. And I think that is the crux of it, is that when that's all you know, that's what you do. And I think it was when I became a godparent of and that there's also a chapter in there about my boys, my first two godchildren, and just the different philosophy that parents had to raising them than I had, and I was far stricter. And I remember a friend of theirs saying, "Why do you let her discipline your children?" And they responded, "Because she's with them without us and they need to know how to be with her." And I really appreciated that. And to the same token, I literally remember sitting in there and watching them interact with their kids and be stern with them, but do it in a way that was more visibly loving. I don't know, because again, my grandmother loved us, there was no doubt, but it was just always kind of hard, and they would sit and talk and listen, and like none of that happened. You got talked at. You didn't get to talk to your parent.
No.
And so I learned by watching them that actually there was another way to do this. There was another way. It took a little bit more time. It wasn't as immediate, but it had the same outcome, if not maybe sometimes a better outcome. And I do understand, though, because I think about 1912 Alabama, that you didn't have time to explain something and ad nauseum until the kid got it. It's like it was life and death sometimes. And so I understand where the discipline came from in my house, and I realized that it no longer was necessary. And it's one of those things, when something no longer serves us, how do we let that go? How do we figure out what the next thing is that is more appropriate for where we are today? And that was watching my friends raise their kids and learning from them. I'm still considered the strict auntie. In fact, my sister's granddaughter just said, Aunt Nana is really strict. And so I'm still that person, but it definitely is, it's softer.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. So in your book, you cover so many topics, historical trauma, race, identity, belonging, the whooping. I'll keep going back to that. But then there's pain, healing as well. Was there a particular part of the book or particular chapter that you found? Because I know you've been writing this for a long time. Was there a particular chapter that was quite difficult to put to page?
I think the earlier chapters were probably more difficult than the later ones, just because I hadn't gone back to really process some of those experiences that I wrote about. I thought I had processed them. I thought that I was over them. And I remember there were times when I was telling the story that I started crying again, because I realized that there was a whole nother, like it was peeling the onion. There was a whole layer that I hadn't really addressed and didn't think I needed to until I did. And so as I've gotten older, that kind of self-reflection has become more normalized in how I live my life. But I hadn't gone back to look and evaluate my past like that. I found places that I still needed to forgive, myself, also my mom, my family, my brother in particular, that I thought I was over, that I hadn't. Yeah, that's my mom with my 3 brothers. I love that picture. I think that was probably lovely. The year before we were born. It speaks to a time, and unfortunately two of my brothers in that picture are not with us anymore. And so I also feel very grateful that I got to heal before, particularly Ricky, the one standing with that look. That's him. That's Ricky. We got to heal our relationship before he passed, which was a great joy for me, because it would have been very difficult to lose him and be where we were.
Yeah, I can imagine. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
So there were, if you don't know, Nancy is a twin, which I think is fascinating in itself. So you have 2 brothers.
3 brothers and a twin sister. Yep.
And whereabouts are you in that dynamic?
We're the babies. So Dora and I are the babies. We're 7 years younger than the youngest one. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
You'll have to read the book to really get into the family dynamics, because we could be here all day, couldn't we? Was there a particular part in the book that really gave you that great joy? You look back on something with great fondness and you just feel gratitude for that particular memory. Was there anything there that really stood out to you in that way?
Okay, so I gotta look, because I really, it's all kind of blending together. But well, I'll read it. One of the things that always brings me joy is I think it's The Dead Zone. That's probably a story, and I'm going to share it. That'll be the reading I do next week. But I think of that story, and my sister-in-law Janelle always comes to mind, and it makes me laugh every time. And the funny thing is that my husband read the book, right, and then he read that story, and he was cracking up, and I'm like, what are you laughing at? He's like, it's still funny to me, because he's heard that story over and over. Whenever we're together, it's a story that gets told in our family, and it still makes me laugh. And I think it makes me laugh because it's really indicative of what our household was like. It was chaotic, but it was always joyous, right? There was always laughter. We were always kind of, doing weird things and just kind of tricking each other and doing stuff. But it was always like that. And I think that really illustrates kind of the feeling of our household is that story.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because often, like, it's not always just pinpointing one particular event or one particular thing. It's that feeling, isn't it? You just said that the house is always, even though it was chaotic, mm-hmm. It was your chaos. You had the joy, you had the interactions, and I think that's something that really comes through across in the book as well.
Yeah, I think part of it is that we learn not to take things too seriously, right? And also not to get too attached to things. And so we really were, I think, present, which is something that I think we're not as much so, these days.
Why do you think that is? Just out of interest, why do you think people aren't as present as?
I think that, as things get harder, there's more future planning, like kind of either anxiety about the future or regret about the past. And the Buddhists have it right. It's like being in the moment, and it alleviates all the stress and all the anxiety, because it's only what's in front of you in this moment. And that's something that I'm always constantly striving to remember myself. It's like, what's in front of me in this moment, and I can't change, what is to come. I don't even know for sure. And so it is work, but I think it is as things get harder, there seems to be more need to try to plan. And when you're planning, you're in the future.
Yeah.
And
often like that, it causes resistance, doesn't it? When you try and control things. I mean, this is something I've had today. You're trying to control the outcome, but really, sometimes you just surrender, and the life will work out. The best laid plans often go awry. I've learned that. And sometimes the plans that happen are the best ones.
Yeah. And I think those are the gifts, the ones that show up. You have to be on a path, but if you try not to be too attached to the outcome of that particular path and let that path guide you where you're supposed to be, at least in my life, I believe I've always ended up where I'm supposed to be.
And where you are right now is with your third book, Glimmers, a memoir, essays on race and historical trauma, the origins of compassionate dialogue, and the power of unconditional love. I just love this cover. This actually was released yesterday. So please, if you don't have a copy, go and grab one. I'm going to just say hello to Lee, who's saying hello. Nice to see you, Lee. We've got a question here from Olivia. She says, thank you. Please, can we have a libation healing after to reset us back to positive vibration? Thank you. We'll share.
Yeah.
That would be, I think, do you know what? I think the whole world needs that. And I think this is, to play on words, just a glimmer of what, if you can do this, one person, think about the ripple effect everyone can do.
Absolutely. And I've seen it. Like I've seen it, and it's really a gift to be able to, like, even having my students come back to see the impact, because you don't know in the moment the impact you're making, but you are making one, and be sure of that. And so we get to decide if it's a positive one or a negative one. And so I get to see now people who attend a session that I do drop me an email and just say, this is what happened because of the session. And I'm thinking it's a 90-minute session where I'm just giving a broad overview, and yet something resonated with someone in that room. And so I keep doing the work, because even if it's just one person that can hear or feel or take that step that maybe they were afraid to step because of what I've said, then I'm successful, right? And because they're going to do the same.
Exactly. You know, one person can reach 1,000 people.
Yeah.
You know? Right, we've got some questions here. Roddock Style is saying, how do you cope with disappointment?
You know, I love it because I think one of the biggest strategies for me was first accepting that this life was not promised to be easy. And that was a hard lesson for me because I remember being younger and when I kind of recognized that we were poor, you know, which was like teenage, and looking and having envy and stuff like that. And being disappointed when I couldn't get something or attend something and feeling like I was somehow entitled. And I remember the shift was really in understanding that Byron Katie's work, she says, you know, how do we know it's true? Like, it is what it is. And so that disappointment for me is normal. And once I understood that disappointment is actually a normal state in our lives, that we, like failure, we should experience failure so that we can appreciate success, so that we have that driver. Disappointment, sadness, those are all emotions that are equally as important in our lives as happiness and joy. And so I look at disappointment more as a lesson than something to avoid, right? So I don't know if that really answers it, but for me, it's like it's a lesson. Everything's a lesson. When things don't work out, it's a lesson. And using that framing lets me move through it.
That's really beautiful what you said then as well. Like, I think that we come into this human existence to explore and to experience all of these different emotions. How would we know what real joy is if we're only experiencing joy? We have no comparison. So hope that helps, Red Oxtail. Janet says, hello, another one of our authors. Nice to see you. Janet says the cover is lovely. Yeah, we're going to talk about the cover in a moment. It's a whole conversation in itself. Absolutely gorgeous. LBVB10 says,
that's Mel. Hey Mel. Hey Mel.
Hey,
that's my Scottish connection.
Oh, hello. Where are you watching from? Are you watching from Scotland? Let us know. Thank you.
Yes.
Brilliant. I mean, I wanted to kind of go deeper into your life, but I mean, I think we should actually talk about this cover here. I love this cover so much. Can you talk us through your concept?
So when I was thinking, because the book truly evolved, I didn't start off thinking I was going to write short stories. I thought I was going to, you know, write a sequential kind of, you know, story. It was going to be nonfiction, but I just didn't think of short stories. But, you know, I think I talk about it. I don't know if I talk about it in the book, but I talk about it at some point about the napkins that my sister and I started writing. We're like, think of the events in your life and write them down because they'll spark a story. And so that's kind of how we got to the short story. So when I initially thought of the cover, I thought it would be my grandmother as the kind of foundation. And actually it was you and your team that said, yeah, that's grandma too. Yeah, that was at my graduation from college. And my sister and I were the first to graduate college. So it was everybody showed up and showed out. But I thought it should be my grandmother. And then because she was the matriarch, she, you know, held the container for all of us. But then it was your team who actually said, since, you know, if we're thinking about the spirit of Sankofa, then it should be you with the people inside. So the people inside, I just felt like this is who I am. Like I am a conglomeration of all of this. And so so I appreciate it. It was a great collaboration. Your team did a wonderful job in creating this vision I had. You know, it went from the Sankofa bird to my grandmother, and then to me. So I got both. I got the Sankofa bird on the back, and and then me on the front with Grandma Lucky Lady Luck. That was the perfect picture.
There you go, Lady Luck.
Yeah, Lady Luck. Yeah, you can see there. Yeah,
and they are like just like little glimmers of the life.
Yeah.
In fact, if you're watching, I mean, I'm a nosy person anyway. It'd be interesting if you were to have, you know, glimmers in your life. What would your glimmers be? Just maybe put in the chat. What are those little glimmers memories or people or events that really make you who you are, or have really shaped who you are? I'd be interested to know. So I'm going to bring up someone here who actually reminds me of my dad. He looks very much like my dad when he was younger. I'm sorry, I'm sinking. I know that he shaped a lot of your childhood and adulthood, and I thought the relationship was really, really powerful to read about. So I'm going to share.
Yeah. Yep, that's Bob Dome. That's who we get our name from. And he and my mom were married when we were born, and then they divorced shortly after, a couple of years after, and we did not see him again until I looked for him at 16. And I looked for him and my bio dad at the same time, kind of going through an identity crisis, wanting to know, because we definitely are a family of women, of matriarchs. It's, very women led, very women driven. My Aunt Kitty, my cousin Rosetta, all the women were the forces there. And so I remember calling him up, finding him in the phone book, and asking him if he knew my mom. And he kind of chuckled and he said, well, yeah, I was married to her, And he said, who is this? And I told him, and he got all emotional. He said that he had wanted to have a relationship, but since we were not biologically his kids, he didn't feel that he could. Although he was paying child support because he is on our birth certificate, and that is why we have his name. But he just didn't feel like it was his place. And so I think that he was waiting for that moment for us to reach out. So that started it. And it was, it's still awkward though, meeting someone you don't know, but you have a history with. And we nurtured that. And then I would say probably about, that was his 80th birthday. That was the last time I saw him before he passed away from cancer. But I remember part of why he was in this facility was that he had was walking down the street one day and got run over by someone high in crystal meth.
Oh no.
And I was listed as his next of kin. He was living in Washington, and I, through some miracle, Southwest Airlines got me on a plane that was completely booked because they didn't think he was going to make it through the night. And so I got there, and it turned out he was going to survive. So I ended up going home, coming back up, and he had to spend a year in rehab. And it was in that time where we just really started talking about things. Like I heard the story of how he met my mom, which was fascinating. I loved it. That's actually in the book too. Things that my mom and I never really talked about. And I'm really hoping that now that these stories are out there, that my mom and I will actually talk more about them. I'm not sure why we haven't. We just haven't, but I think now she's interested. I think this book triggered her a little bit because she's trying to be preemptive and like, well, my book's coming out in December. I'm like, well, great.
Oh, your mom's got a book as well. Oh,
well, we don't know. I think she's got like 3 pages that but she's inspired because she made a comment like, well, this is my version, and I'm like, well, it's my story, it's my book. But so hopefully we'll have that conversation. But he was a special man. He had no resentment to my mom. He welcomed Dora and I as if we were never gone. And I even though that accident was terrible, it was a gift because it really, I started going up every month as his power of attorney, making sure he was okay, taking care of his house. And it just took our relationship to a whole nother level that probably wouldn't have happened, when you see each other once a year.
Wow, that's incredible. Let's just, here we go.
Yeah.
This to Bob.
Yeah, I think that was his high school graduation photo. It's that whole time period. Like when I think of the way my mom was dressed and the boys, like that kind of formal, it was really, I think, quite beautiful.
That's a beautiful picture. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your childhood. That I just can't even imagine how that must be, tracing the man who'd been in your life right from the beginning. as an adult and then picking up as as if you were never gone. I think it's such a special relationship there, I think. So growing up, was it West Hollywood?
Yep.
As one of the very few Black children there, you speak quite a lot about race and how that was in terms of your experience. Can you share that a little bit with us here? And I think this is you in the volleyball team. Is that in West Hollywood too?
Yeah, that was at our high school. And and there, it's not that there were very few Black families. It was just extremely diverse, right? And so, and it was this microcosm. That's how I describe it. It was a microcosm that I thought represented the United States. And until I went away to college in Arizona, did I understand that civil rights really had only worked in West Hollywood. Not only, but like I grew up thinking civil rights worked. I thought that we had grown and that, there was some, even though there needed to be a more like racial reckoning, that healing had begun. We didn't have any intense racial problems. If you didn't like a person, it was because of who they were, not because of what they were. We knew the difference. We didn't call all brown people Mexicans. You knew who was Peruvian. You knew who was Mexican. You knew who was Guatemalan. Like you knew who people were. We didn't call people Asians. It was really interesting. Like you knew she was Korean and you knew she was Japanese. And so you just kind of felt like it worked. Like we're living together relatively in harmony. And I think what was also unique was that I went to school with most of those people. I still have people in my life from elementary school from 4 years old that are in my life today. So I went to elementary, middle school, and high school together. So it was really this community. And I think it provided a really strong foundation, and it kind of set me up for a real shocking awakening when I realized that it wasn't like that everywhere. Yeah. My first book, Let's Talk About Race, I share the story of getting arrested in Arizona. But, literally being a Black girl with 3 white guys getting a ride home, and all of us getting arrested, but me getting the worst of all the things, as someone who had no idea that there was marijuana in the car, had no idea that they had played a gag. I literally was getting a ride home because my girlfriend left me because she hooked up with someone, and I ended up in jail for a weekend. For me at 18, and I had just turned 18, which means that I went to the adult facility instead of a juvenile facility. And I was shocked. And in fact, Bob is the one, because my mom was in Europe. I know eventually she found out about it, but Bob was who I called. And Bob is the one who paid for the attorney to fight that case for wrongful arrest. But that's a shock. Like, and I mean, now I'm 60, so I'm not shocked anymore. But at 18, coming from West Hollywood, I did not see that coming.
Wow. I'm still a whole weekend, but without having any kind of evidence that you had anything to do with it at all.
No, in fact, everyone told them that I was getting a ride home, like that I was not supposed to be in that car. And the one guy, it was 2 of us who were in the back who were getting a ride home, and they let him go on his own recognizance. And it was because they let him go that he was able to go to my college and get an adult to come down and bail me out. But they didn't let me go, and I was the one who didn't know anybody. It was just really, it was fascinating. So, I think about the benefits of growing up in an environment where I didn't have to worry about race like that. And also not being really prepared for the reality that the world is still like that. And we see it even now more. I mean, in fact, we're going backwards.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. What obviously I'm in the UK, so we're just seeing through the lens of the media and social media. So how is it? How are you experiencing the US at the moment?
It's fascinating. It's not as in my face as you would think, especially because I live in Montana, and you think it would, what I find is kind of two kinds of people. I'm going to really simplify this. I now have people who go out of their way to make eye contact with me, and I think it's to let me know that I see you.
They're all right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really, whereas before, especially I'm in airports all the time. So, before it's like headphones on, you're getting to your gate, you're doing your thing, you're not paying attention. And now I see people actively seeking connection, not just with me, but particularly with me as one of the few Black people, in Missoula Airport, but also with each other, like really feeling lost and feeling like I need to find out who my tribe is. I need to find out who my people are. And so you see people kind of cautiously making eye contact to find out, like, are you my people? And are you not? And so that's been interesting. I find that I started wearing a shirt that said love is an action word, and it's become my travel shirt because I'm trying to signal to people who want to make a connection that I'm open to making a connection, which before I wasn't interested in because I was just on a mission. But I really feel like we need to take every opportunity now to connect when we can, to let people know that they're not alone and that, there's other people out here who are feeling the same way. We can't give up. We can't surrender. And, but we need to figure out, what does it look like for us? Not everyone can march. Not everyone has the resources to donate. But we can do little bits. Every single one of us can figure out what that little bit is.
I think that's really important, this idea of connection in a world where maybe we didn't feel like we needed that because, there is an individualization, if that's even a word. Often in Western society, everyone's quite individualized. And I think there's two things that can happen, like you said. Either it's hate, division, or we presume, we make assumptions about people based on race, background, or whatever. We believe that they're like this because they look like that. But actually, then you have the group of people that are going out of their way to seek that connection. I think that's a really powerful and the first step.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of it too. I mean, and that's why I'm pushing myself, right? Because my defense mechanisms kick in. I see a white guy with a crew cut. I'm wondering who he is, and I'm forcing myself also to step out of my own bias and try to engage and see what happens. And most of the time I'm pleasantly surprised.
I think we've got that over here with the English flags, but it's another story. So let's talk about going back to the RIR. Recognize, interrupt. I'm just going to use a full recognize, interrupt, and repair. What do you think people, or in your experience, what has been the most difficult part of that for people, do you think?
It's different for everybody, but what I find, so like if I think about leaders, the recognize is the hardest because their leaders you have to interrupt and you have to repair. It's part of your job. But I think they skip over recognize because they don't get their feelings involved. So they only think about external. I remember doing an interview with this gentleman who was the head of Pac Bell for years. And it took us nearly 12 minutes for him to recognize his feelings. And then it took him 30 seconds to do the rest of the protocol. And I was like, Dave, why did it take you so long? And he's like, I realize that the reason why I react here is because I was bullied as a kid. And so he had no tolerance for whatever the card was. And so his reaction, his reaction made his interruption very harsh. And it was because of lived experiences he had. And when he was able to reflect and kind of acknowledge that, he realized that he could interrupt with a little bit more compassion. Like it still needed to be dealt with, but he was coming. Our past, whether or not we acknowledge it or not, is impacting how we are engaging with people. And if I don't kind of regulate myself, I'm kind of doomed to potentially overreact to something because it triggered something in me. So I've got to first mitigate what's in me so that you're not getting not only what you did, but also what happened to me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The going back. And so I think for people, recognize is hard because it requires a level of vulnerability. And I think we've been conditioned that if we're vulnerable, somebody will take advantage of us, right?
We're going to suddenly melt and dissolve into powder or something. But I mean, I think that the work you do is really powerful. It's always been needed. You know, people, you know, we've been living for generations. Many of us with wounds that never heal. In fact, I think we're always on a journey of evolving and learning. But I think this is just a really tangible and I say easy to apply, but easy to, once you've got it, or to remember anyway. Not allowing our past wounds to actually have an impact on how we respond to something. I think that's
absolutely really and it's effort. It's not easy by any means, but you know, with conscious effort, anything's possible. And I love the idea of being able to move forward in the world without carrying those hurts with me, right? Like I am more than ready to let go of those wounds. I don't want them impacting my life anymore. So when they show up, I just deal with them. You know, that kind of goes back to the disappointment. I'm not mad at it. It just means it's an area that requires a little bit more attention.
No, that's beautiful. Thank you, Nancy. I love the work you do. I could talk to you all. I need another. Who would like to see Nancy back? I need another hour with you.
I'd love it.
Come and join us if you're in the UK. 2:00. Right, you can do it. Set your alarms. 28th of May, literally a week from now, going live on all platforms. It will be in the newsletter. I'll be posting about it, and there'll be a link in here as well. So to finish off, I've got it's a bit of a game here. Okay, it's called this or that. So you're literally going to say the first thing that comes to your head. I'll give you a choice of two. Okay, no thinking, just saying, reacting.
Okay.
Okay. Dialogue or silence?
Dialogue.
Forgiveness or closure?
Oh my gosh. Forgiveness.
Yeah. Courage or comfort?
Courage.
Truth or peace?
Truth.
Boundaries or belonging?
Both.
Okay. Cheap. I think
I know, but
it's a hard one, isn't it? Because both are important, aren't they? I was going to say
boundaries. I'll go to boundaries to play the game. I'm going to say boundaries, but yeah.
Okay. Looking back or moving forward, I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to say both because of, you know, the Sankofa bird and everything you've spoken about. What would you say?
I'd say both. You know, or the one that's not there is right present. Right, like that's if I can be conscious and choose, this is what I'm choosing. I needed this experience to actually be here, to be centered.
Yeah. So okay, perfect. Compassion or accountability?
Compassion.
Passion. Head or heart?
Heart.
Oh, okay, brilliant. I'm just going to choose a couple from here. Now those are really tough. So I'm going to ask you to finish the sentence. Compassionate dialogue begins with
you.
Okay. Healing.
Or that wait. With me. That's what I meant. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, not with you, but with me.
Compassionate
dialogue begins.
I got that.
Me. So yes.
I got that.
Okay.
I got that. Healing is not
easy.
Oh, okay. The child version of me needed to hear
that I am enough.
Ooh, beautiful. The past becomes powerful when
we release its hold on us.
I hope, listen, guys, take notes. This is beautiful. Unconditional love means
loving yourself.
Ooh, okay. The world would be kinder if
we all remember that we're all having a human experience.
My deepest hope for Glimmers is
to be a New York Times bestseller.
Okay, guys, you heard it first. New York Times bestseller, please. go out and get yourself a copy of this book. Literally, it's on all retailers, all platforms. You can go to Dr. Nancy Dome's website at www.drdrnancydome.com. All the information about her work there is there. I'm going to put it in the chat as well. Actually, it's if you're watching on Facebook or LinkedIn, it's up there. If you're watching on YouTube, all the links are down there. So I'm going to ask you to give us your final words. What is it? What would you say? No, what final words would you like to end? Oh, hold on. Thank you, Lee. This is amazing.
Thank you.
What would you like to leave our audience with today?
I think that the greatest learning with writing this book, I'm going to rephrase this. I was asked a question yesterday, and it said, what is a goal that you've reached that you're most proud of? And I mentioned this book. Not because I was trying to promote it, but because what I realized, it was part of a board. I'm on a board of Positive Coaching Alliance. And so we support coaches and athletes and families. And I realized that athletics was always easy to me, right? That I was good, I was competitive, I was strong. And I think when things come easy, you kind of take them for granted. And so while I had a really amazing career, it wasn't what made me most proud because it was easy. This was not easy. Getting this book out took me 20 years to do it, right? To take this concept and manifest it. And I think that effort and seeing myself as something other, like seeing myself as an author. This is the first time I've put author in front of my name as opposed to educator, right? And seeing an identity beyond the identity that I've held. That has been my what I'm most proud of, is just that I've grown. And so I think the message I would give out is don't limit yourself. Like, we have so much potential, and you may do a thing really well, but it doesn't define you. And don't let other people define you. We get to define who we are. And so every time that I paint or I write or I, do something, I am expanding who I am, the definition of who I am. We're multifaceted. And so remembering that, it's a whole lot of, googly-gop, but, all that to say that I think that we have to give ourselves grace and be willing to explore and to fail and to grow, to really find out what we're capable of.
That's beautiful. Thank you. That's so interesting what you said about achievements. Often we define ourselves, like you say, by our achievements, but actually, I can't even imagine writing a memoir, to be able to write, to encapsulate your life in such a succinct way, but also link it back to your work, just from an emotional point of view in itself. You've birthed this book, and I'm so honored and proud to have helped you, bring it out into the world, and it's just, it's beautiful. Please, guys, go out and get your copy of Glimmers today.
And I'm going to say, and if you want to write a book, contact Danny, because she is, and I mean that. I'm just going to put a little thing out there. I remember I came across you. I'm not exactly sure how, but during COVID, right before COVID, and I was going to come out and take a workshop with you.
I remember.
Because I was going to be in the UK, and COVID happened and we had to cancel, and I couldn't imagine asking for a refund from a small business. So I was like, how can we do this together, where I can get, something for what I paid for, and you don't have to hand back over money. And you were so gracious with your feedback around my first book. And I just remember that. I remember how you responded and how easy it was to work with you. And so when it came time to find a publisher for this round, you were the first one who popped into my head, and I'm so glad that I did it. So I thank you for your love and kindness and your support around helping this get out into the world. You really are a gem.
Oh, but I don't do that. Thank you so much. No, it really means a lot. We genuinely absolutely adored working with you, and we'll continue to do so as well. I think the work that you're doing, like I said, is so powerful and so needed. like more than ever this time. And I hope everyone who's watched and who will be watching on the replay can get not just a glimmer, but a whole heap of glimmers from just this small interview that we've had. Thank you so much, Nancy. So after everything you've lived, learned and repaired, released and reclaimed, what is the one truth you know for sure about love, healing, and the possibility of human connection? Last question.
That healing and connection are not only possible, but necessary for us to live the lives that we want to live. All of us want the same thing. We think we don't. But if we get down to the core, safety, security, love, fellowship, if we stick in the core, there's really no difference. So I think remembering that.
Powerful words to end on. Thank you so much. Steve Williams is saying, here we go. Great stuff, Nancy Bunny. Yes. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching. Nancy, stay there. Please join us 7 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. EST next week, where I'll be interviewing Yeshiba Bat-Gabriel, who is publishing her third book with us, children's book, Clever Chrissy and the Magic Note. Compassionate Chrissy, compassionate, you see there, Compassionate Chrissy and the Magic Melons. And it's actually the same color cover as this one here, but you'll have to see it next week. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining. Please do share this out and let people know about Dr. Nancy Dome's amazing work. See you soon.
Thank you.